Well, to me it's a very simple book, but nonetheless, what I sought to do in that first book, there was a plethora of books on the Enneagram when I wrote that book.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a wave that had already moved through the culture, really. So my publisher I was quite lucky with my publisher. But the reason that I wrote the book was because what was being taught was simply the Enneagram of personality, so the 9 Enneatypes and their characteristics, without any sense of what the potential was.
Right.
So to me, that's a rather hopeless situation to be. I mean, it's all very well and good to understand how one's personality works, but what else is there to us? You know, so that was why I wrote the book. I was trying to bring into the Enneagram world and people's understanding of the Enneagram the whole context in which I learned it. So, what was your question? I forgot.
Well, no, I was just wanting you to give some idea of what a person might get in terms of understanding from the book.
Well,
I think you've answered it fairly well.
I think what you've said also, Ian, is a sense of empathy, of understanding how other people work. And instead of observing how people are behaving that might be problematic for oneself and feeling like they're doing something to us or they've got it wrong, you know, just understanding that this is simply another style.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a whole other take on reality and on how to live and how to be and how to behave, and it obeys, people's patterns obey 9 different styles. It's rather obvious once one knows the map.
Right. And then your second book, which is the Enneagram of Passions and Virtues.
Yes.
Just take us through that very briefly as well.
Well, I wanted to, the map of the Enneagram of Passions and Virtues helps us understand different inner orientations that support our personal development or personal growth, personal unfoldment, becoming more conscious of ourselves. So basically, the Enneagram of Passions and Virtues helps us to look at the difficult emotions that we get into and what other possibilities might be. Different ways of relating to the world. So in other words, we talked about envy in the 4 Enneatype.
Yes, yeah.
And 4s are really racked with envy. It's a sense of, oh God, it's so much better over there than what I have here. And by understanding that that's a passion, that's a kind of knee-jerk reactive pattern, and that an alternative to that is looking toward oneself and seeing the goodness within oneself and accepting oneself can really change that quite painful orientation to reality.
It seems like, in a way, you're mapping out a process.
Yes.
You're mapping out a possibility for people to allow movement forward in themselves. Well, I would use the way forward, but you would probably say it's more like back to the real them.
Well, it's the same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that forward movement is a movement into what's true about us. Yes, that's a good way to put it. It's basically setting a context so that we have in our minds what part of our potential is as human beings, and to feel that we're not stuck.
Exactly. It's like we might feel in a trap, but somewhere we might not see the way out, but there is a way out. And
Yes.
the way out is in,
Yes.
understanding, and then the doors start to open, the trap
Right.
starts to disentangle.
Right.
So I know you do run some seminars in Wales sometimes I think twice a year, and that's Ridhwan School, which is the A.A. Almas Hamid Ali School. and that's been ongoing now for a few years. I think those groups are closed at the moment, aren't
Yes,
they?
yes.
But maybe something opens in the future on
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yes. Yeah, I work with about, I guess it's around 200 people who come from actually all over. One person flies from Kathmandu to come to the group.
Wow, wow,
People come
yeah.
from South Africa. A lot of Norwegians, interestingly enough. It's the old Viking
Beetle
trade
collection,
route.
Norwegian wood, eh?
Right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yeah, and the old Viking trade route or
yeah.
plunder route, however one wants to look at it.
Okay, well, thank
Yeah.
you very much for coming on to Conscious TV, and I hope we can maybe meet you again next time you're over and talk in a bit more detail about the Enneagram, which I think will be very interesting for people.
Okay, good.
Thank you, and thank you for watching Conscious TV, and we'll see you again soon. Goodbye.